Hey folks, the economy is not exactly humming along like a well-oiled chainsaw right now. The government and those delightful folks in the media keep telling us everything is fine. But then you go to the grocery store and suddenly you're considering trading your firstborn for a gallon of milk. And it's not just groceries, is it? Rent, interest rates, that weird stain on your carpet you've been meaning to get looked at. Everything seems to be going up in price except for our paychecks. And that's why we're here tonight, folks. We're talking about 15 alarming signs that suggest the U.S. economy might be in more trouble than a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. So buckle up, grab a stiff drink, responsibly of course, and let's dive into the economic abyss, shall we? Remember when gardening was just a quaint hobby your Aunt Mildred was really into? Well, Mildred might be onto something because with the price of groceries reaching truly breathtaking heights, more and more Americans are turning to their own backyards to avoid having to take out a second mortgage just to feed their families. We're talking full-on victory gardens, folks, except this time it's not about national pride, it's about economic survival. Hunting, once the domain of camouflage-clad enthusiasts, is seeing a resurgence as well. That's right, people are dusting off their grandpa's old hunting rifle and figuring out how to tell the difference between a deer and a very large squirrel because venison is starting to look like a much more affordable protein option than anything you can find at the supermarket these days. This is America, the land of opportunity, not the land of hope. You can tell the difference between a rutabaga and a turnip. When owning a home was considered a key part of the American dream, well, these days that dream is starting to look more like a fever dream, and not the fun kind where you wake up with a newfound talent for playing the ukulele. Here's the thing, housing prices have skyrocketed faster than a SpaceX rocket launch in recent years, while wages have crawled along at the pace of a particularly sluggish snail. In fact, in some parts of the country, houses are 24 times more expensive than they were a generation ago. When you could buy a decent amount of groceries with a $20 bill? Yeah, me neither, but I hear it was a magical time. These days, thanks to the delightful phenomenon known as inflation, your hard-earned money is worth less and less with each passing day. Experts predict that the average American's purchasing power is likely to decline significantly over the next 5 years. That means that even if you manage to get a raise, and let's be honest, most of us aren't exactly holding our breath for that, it's probably not going to keep pace with the rising cost of, well, everything. So what can you do? Well, you could try investing in a really good pair of running shoes because you're going to need to outrun inflation. Or, you could just weep quietly into your increasingly empty wallet. That emergency fund you've been diligently building, for a rainy day. Well, guess what? It's pouring buckets out there, my friends, and that emergency fund is starting to look about as effective as a screen door on a submarine. Inflation is a cruel mistress, and it's not content with just nibbling away at your purchasing power. Americans are withdrawing from their savings at an unprecedented rate, folks, all in an effort to keep up with the rising cost of, well, existing. It's a vicious cycle, really. Inflation eats away at your income, forcing you to dip into your savings, which then leaves you more vulnerable when the next financial storm hits, which, let's be honest, it inevitably will. It's enough to make you want to bury your money in the backyard and hope for the best. Ah, Dollar General, the retail haven for those of us who appreciate a good bargain. But even Dollar General, that bastion of affordability, is starting to feel the strain of our collective economic woes. Dollar General recently reported that their customers are running out of money, which, if you think about it, is kind of like a canary in a coal mine situation. Those carefree days when you could spontaneously decide to go out to eat without having to file for bankruptcy afterward, Pepperidge Farm remembers. These days, with inflation still doing its best impression of a runaway train, dining out is becoming a distant memory for many Americans. Restaurants, already battered by the pandemic, are now facing a new wave of challenges, namely the fact that most of us are now forced to choose between paying our rent and indulging in a plate of overpriced avocado toast. As a result, restaurant bankruptcies are on the rise, and those trendy little eateries with the Edison bulbs and reclaimed wood tables are starting to look about as appealing as a plate of week-old sushi. So the next time you're tempted to treat yourself to a meal out, maybe just stay home and perfect your instant ramen recipe instead. Gather round, children, and let me tell you a tale of horror, a story so terrifying it would make Stephen King sleep with the lights on. It's the story of debt in America. Now, debt itself isn't inherently evil, but when nearly 20% of Americans are unable to meet their monthly debt payments, it's a sign that we've ventured deep into the land of Houston. We have a problem, and the problem is that we're drowning in a sea of red ink. And as the cost of living continues to skyrocket faster than a sugar-crazed toddler on a trampoline, more and more people are finding themselves trapped in a cycle of debt that seems impossible to escape. Student loans, those magical financial instruments that allow you to get a degree, which may or may not lead to a job, but will definitely lead to decades of crippling debt. Student loan debt has ballooned to truly staggering proportions in recent years, exceeding the gross domestic product of several small countries. In fact, the average student loan borrower is now saddled with over $37,000 in debt. The problem is, with interest rates rising faster than a sourdough starter on a hot day, that student loan debt is only going to get bigger and more difficult to pay off. When getting a car was a symbol of freedom and independence, well, these days, it's starting to feel more like a symbol of indentured servitude, thanks to the ever-growing mountain of car loan debt. Car prices, much like the price of everything else these days, have gone completely bonkers. As a result, more and more Americans are finding themselves trapped in car loans with terms that would make a loan shark blush. We're talking 72-month loans, 84-month loans, heck, some people are even taking out 96-month loans. It's not just us regular folks who are feeling the economic pinch, folks. Business bankruptcies are on the rise, and we're not just talking about your neighborhood mom and pop shops. We're talking about big-name retailers, restaurant chains, and even some tech companies that were once considered invincible. Remember banks, those brick-and-mortar establishments where you used to go to deposit a check, withdraw cash, or, actually talk to a human being? Well, it seems those days are going the way of the dodo bird, as banks across the country are closing branches faster than you can say overdraft fee. Now, some might argue that this is just a natural evolution in the digital age, as more and more people bank online or through their phones. But it's also a sign that banks are feeling the squeeze, folks. When getting a pink slip was a rare and terrifying event, like seeing a spider in your bathtub or realizing you just accidentally agreed to a timeshare presentation, well, buckle up, Buttercup, because pink slips are back, baby, and they're coming for your job. Companies across various sectors are trimming their workforces like a butcher carving up a Thanksgiving turkey, and no one is safe. When the tech industry was the golden child of the American economy, a land of beanbag chairs, kombucha on tap, and salaries that could make your head spin faster than a Tesla on autopilot, well, it seems even Silicon Valley isn't immune to the economic storm clouds gathering overhead. Tech giants, once thought to be invincible, are suddenly looking a little less mighty as they announce hiring freezes, layoffs, and even rescinded job offers. Now, I know what you're thinking. You've been a real downer this whole video. Is there any hope at all, any glimmer of light in this economic darkness? Well, I'm not one to sugarcoat things, folks, but there is one potential bright spot. Warren Buffett seems to be bracing for a stock market crash. Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, the man who made billions investing in everything from Coca-Cola to Geico, is known for his long-term investment strategy and his ability to predict market trends with uncanny accuracy. And guess what? He's been selling off stocks like it's going out of style. Look, I know we've covered a lot of ground tonight, and it's not exactly the most uplifting stuff, but here's the thing, we're all in this together, folks. And while the economic outlook might seem bleak, there's still hope. Remember, we've been through tough times before, and we've always come out the other side. We need to be aware of the challenges we're facing and take steps to prepare ourselves financially. So there you have it, folks. 15 signs that the U.S. economy might be headed for a rough landing. The cost of living is skyrocketing, debt is piling up, businesses are struggling, and even those once invincible tech giants are feeling the heat. But hey, at least we have each other, right? And hopefully a well-stocked pantry and a few tomato plants in the backyard. Because if there's one thing we've learned tonight, it's that we can't rely on the government, the banks, or even Warren Buffett to save us. We have to be prepared to weather the storm ourselves. Thanks for watching.